Hello, everyone. I'm Ruchi Parekh. I'm an executive and life coach, a keynote speaker, an NLP practitioner, accredited Wellbeing facilitator, and a lawyer. I'm so excited to welcome you to my podcast. This podcast is driven to tell stories about professionals and executives on their journeys, which has led them to where they are. My guest today is an investment banker with 20 years of experience across Hong Kong, Singapore, and India. Travel and tennis are an integral part of his life, and he loves spending his weekends outdoor with family, either going for meals or to some of the beautiful parks and gardens of Singapore. I'd like to welcome Mrinal on my podcast. Hi, Mrinal. How are you doing today?
Hello, doing very well. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on my podcast today. So tell me, Mrinal, it's very easy to find out information about someone on the social media or any of the, forums online. What is it about you that we won't find, that one thing that we won't find on your LinkedIn profile? Can you share something about you?
Sure. While LinkedIn captures the various milestones, it rarely talks about the journey. And the journey in my 20 years has been around stepping out of your comfort zone, putting your head down and really doing what it takes, having very clear goals and the perseverance to achieve them.
Amazing.
Moving from Mumbai first to Singapore, then to Hong Kong, and then back to Singapore. All these geographical moves across three financial institutions have elements of the.
So, Mrinal, tell me something. It's very easy to find information about someone online. But what is it about you that we won't find on LinkedIn or any of the social media platforms or just anywhere online? Share something about you that we don't know.
That's a great question, Ruchi. While LinkedIn captures milestones, the story behind these journeys is often missed out. And for me, this story is one about stepping out of your comfort zone, really putting your head down and doing what it takes, having a very clear vision of what goals you want to achieve, and finally having the perseverance of achieving those goals. All my moves, whether it was Mumbai, Singapore to Hong Kong, from Hong Kong back to Singapore, and these were across three different institutions, all have elements of these items.
Amazing. So tell me, growing into these roles, moving around, was it a dream? Was it a dream that became a reality? Did your dream and reality match? Answer any of these questions.
Yes, most definitely getting into financial services, the view was to try and branch out of Mumbai, get to one of the global centers and create a long career. I would say the dream was not as detailed as what I'm doing today. I think it's very difficult to foresee yourself, but I would say it has achieved a lot of those aspirational points, whether it is professional or personal, that I would have set out 20 years ago.
You said your dream is not as detailed as it is today. Tell me a bit about that dream.
No, the dream was, it was like any other mid-20-year-old dream, which was you wanted to get out, you wanted to explore, you wanted to work in a very advanced, competitive environment, and those were the contours of the dream. It wasn't as detailed as I wanted to head a team or run a particular region or do particular kind of deals. So I think the details were not there, but I think the broad brush or the broad strokes, I've managed to tick most of those boxes.
Oh, lovely. And do you feel good about it?
Absolutely.
Amazing. And tell me, what motivated you to leave home, your comfort zone, India, and go to a foreign land where you knew nothing about? And this is back when, I think it was not as easy as it is now. How many years ago did you leave India? And how did that go for you?
Yes, I left in 2006, so it's been almost a decade and a half now. And it was very difficult. because all my life I had lived in Mumbai, and leaving family, leaving friends, leaving colleagues, leaving the known was quite difficult, challenging at times, but equally exhilarating. I think it was very clear early on in my career that if I did not push myself beyond my comfort zone, progress would be achieved, but at a much slower pace. And I was a lot less patient then. So I think after the first 3.5 years in Mumbai, it was pretty clear that I wanted to move. I evaluated opportunities in London, in Dubai, and in Singapore, and ultimately decided to go with the role which would be most challenging and most expansive in terms of developing new skill sets. And yeah, 16 years hence, I've traveled a bit, but I'm back to Singapore.
Amazing. How would you, if there was a word or a sentence to use for this beautiful journey full of rich experiences, would you have one?
I would say diligence and being nimble. So do your job well, kind of work hard, and at the same time be nimble to opportunities. So I would, those would be the two words that come to mind if I were to define my career spanning the last 20 years.
Lovely. And tell me, how did you find this confidence? Where did you pull it out from to not only survive, but thrive in a land unknown to you?
So Ruchi, when one moves for the first time, thoughts like thriving or surviving don't immediately pop into your head. I think what you're looking to do is just gain acceptance. It's a new culture, new teams, new people, and all you're looking to do is to fit in, to be kind of trusted at the workplace, and for people to respect you. And the one thing that I remember very clearly is stepping onto the first flight to Singapore. I was extremely determined to do very well at work. And the Singapore role was a new role. It was a role I wanted to master. And at that stage, I did not shy away from taking any extra steps, whether it was, catching up with senior colleagues over coffee or lunch and just kind of hearing their experiences, their journeys, or even as something as simple as, really trying to go out of your way, buy reference books, pour through over them over the weekends, and really gain a mastery of the the work expectations. And I think what's important is after the first year, and the first year was difficult because it was a personal adjustment, it was a workplace adjustment, but really kind of just focusing on what had to be done, and giving it some time. After the first year, I started seeing that there was a lot more fruit, there was a lot more acceptance, a lot more appreciation, and with that, the virtuous cycle gets set. Because when you start getting accepted, when you start getting trusted, when you start getting accolades for your work, the confidence comes around from those kind of acts. And then, as far as you stick to the plan and keep executing, you keep building on your confidence. It was exactly the same when I moved to Hong Kong. Also the same when I moved back to Singapore. But obviously, those the trips 2 and 3 were much easier.
Of course, you said the first year was very difficult for you when you moved out. Can you share any incident or something about that first year that was difficult, but you overcame it?
So I think the first, for all individuals who worked in India, at least back in the early 2000s, it was a very communal culture. There was a lot of chit chat, whether it was cricket or Bollywood or what the latest restaurants and bar scenes are. So all of that was slightly alien in Singapore. You didn't have that many people with the same cultural background, so there wasn't that much common in terms of conversations. And ours were very long. I remember we used to start at 8:30, and there would be several days in a week we'd be ending past 10:30, 11. So there was no ability to build a social, communal sense beyond work, and that was quite tough. Given that I've while in Mumbai and even before in college, through college years, I've been quite social. So that took a little bit of time to get settled into. But yeah, as I said, now it's been very long, and we've got great friends here, so very very settled. It takes a little bit of time.
So, would you say that not giving up, putting your head down and working, and allowing time and just time to take its course helped you to get to where you are today?
Absolutely. I remember very clearly the year 2006. It just felt like it was too monumental. Hours were too long, new country, no friends. But I didn't let those distractions come in the way. All I said is I had to just get through the first year, keep working pretty hard, and see how things go. And slowly you start seeing doors open, new friends get developed, and you kind of start settling into your new life. So absolutely, gotta persevere with with whatever you take up.
Thank you. That's really great for our listeners who are maybe embarking on a new journey.
Yeah.
Don't give up, keep at it, and you will always see the light at the end of that tunnel. Let's uh, let's move a bit from the personal journey. The world calls the 21st century as the Asian century. How do you view the current global markets and economy and Asia as that powerhouse? What are your views on that?
No, I mean, we've been very fortunate to have worked in Asia. I have worked, since 2003 between India, Mumbai, and Singapore. So it's been almost 20 years. And Asia never fails to keep things exciting. There are lots and lots of countries, different clients, different cultures, different regulations, and you got to keep adapting and keep finding solutions for different financial needs of clients. So I think Asia is always very exciting. What makes it furthermore is the growth. With China and India as the two major growing economies globally, you have the pace, you have the size, and you have the depth. So Asia clearly is extremely exciting. It is perhaps correctly called the region which will own the 21st century. And you can see it. You can see it with the development of smaller countries, which were frontier markets, 10, 15 years ago. Now they're all getting into the emerging categorization, and some of those emerging markets have now become developed. So you're seeing that transition, and with that comes incredible opportunities to grow, to learn, and to create value.
Brilliant. So, what is your outlook on business investing and how things function in Asia?
Business, as I said, it's an extremely different market compared to something more standardized like the US. I think the Asian countries and economies are very, very different. And in terms of investing and how things function in Asia, again, when we say Asia, we tend to oversimplify because China works very differently from Thailand, works very differently from Indonesia, works extremely differently from India. So there are common traits, but I think the real key in succeeding in Asia is to have the ability to really integrate locally because each of these countries work a bit differently. And working with teams onshore on the ground, you kind of get a bit more sense of what is likely to work or not work in a particular country. And in terms of business and investing, as I said, just the growth that these countries are seeing, you keep seeing foreigners and individuals and families in the various countries continue to deploy capital into their businesses. So growth, business investing, all of that is extremely positive in Asia.
Amazing. That's so good to hear. Tell me, for someone who pours so much time and effort into his work, do you manage that elusive work-life balance? What are your personal pursuits? What do you enjoy doing in the time you're not working?
Yeah, I mean, again, this of late, the topics around work-life balance, work-life harmony have become quite important. But the reality is that, the first 10, 15 years of your career, you're really pushing very hard to make sure that you're really putting in quality work, you're getting the recognition, you're growing your roles, you're growing your team sizes. So I think that part of your journey, it's okay for it to be a bit more biased towards work in terms of time. But I think as one, settles down, gets kids, I think your priorities start getting rebalanced. And for me, clearly, family holidays are extremely important. Sport is important. I like tennis, as you said in the opening. It's something I like to do quite regularly. And then socializing with friends. That these kind of things gives me a sense of balance. It lets me disconnect. It lets me recharge, and that's something that I really look forward to. I would look at both work and personal life quite holistically. They kind of, in today's day and age, they merge quite a bit. You're on a holiday, you're taking calls, you're at office, and you're still kind of meeting friends in the evening. So it's all kind of intertwined. into one big kind of journey. And from my perspective, just to give you an example in terms of balance, because I like traveling with family, I spend tons and tons of time on weekends planning the trip perfectly. And just as an example, last summer we were in France, and both my kids, they love swimming, and the entire itinerary was built around beaches, lakes, rivers, and thankfully we were able to swim in all these kind of water bodies, and that was just amazing. It was some of the best memories that we've had from a holiday. So, just again, it's just something one must strive to achieve. Yes, there was work even on the holiday, but you find your balance, and you got to go for these things and make sure that you are energized and recharged coming back to work.
I love what you said. Yes, in the early years of your life and career, it's okay to tilt the scale a bit towards work. But once you're a bit settled, I think, and more than balance, it's that harmony. It's that
Yeah.
belief that we cannot separate life and the different parts of it like a pie. They are always going to intertwine. They're like layers on top of each other with varying levels of importance. So
Absolutely.
thank you. So, guys, time for a disclosure. Mrinal is also my husband. And now that the cat's out of the bag, yes, Mrinal, you're a great daddy and husband, of course, but the amount of effort you put in for planning those holidays is something I can vouch for. He's always taken hours. Another thing to share, we always have an Excel sheet that we go with because our itineraries are so beautifully planned that it's a high bar for anyone else to match. So, what are your thoughts on raising kids in today's day and age, especially multicultural ones like ours?
Ruchi, we've always thought that we're quite blessed that we've had the opportunity to have kids and, grow with them in this environment where they're exposed to so many different cultures, different nationalities at school. They also equally have high quality time in India with grandparents on our holidays. So I think, that balance between being exposed to the West, to the globe, and at the same time being rooted to India is quite important in terms of bringing or raising kids. And the other thing, it's been now almost a decade since we had our firstborn. And what's very clear is there's no one success story in parenting. Parenting, everyone figures out on their own. There are lots of websites, there are lots of books, but ultimately, every parent is unique, and that relationship between them is also very unique. So I think you got to continue to learn every day. It's not very easy, but it's thoroughly enjoyable. And the only thing I would say, and I think which we do quite well, is to spend tons and tons of time with them when they're growing in their early years, because that's when you can really shepherd them, you can guide them, and when it's required, also police them. I think it's really important to spend that quality time and the quantity of time as well. You need to spend a lot of time with them. I think the one thing when it comes to raising children, especially in a city like Singapore, we hear that sometimes they don't fully get exposed. They're not told the hard truths. Everything is, kind of is kind of made soft for them. But I don't necessarily agree with that. I think you gotta, give them lots of opportunities. You gotta let them try new things. But at the same time, when things are not working out, I think it's absolutely okay to be strict, to be kind of, police them, and let them develop with full knowledge and full awareness of some things being good, some things not being so good. And the other thing I would say about raising kids is also giving them the liberty to make choices, because as we have also seen that as our children grow, I think they tend to get a lot more mature than we're willing to accept, and we got to give them that airtime, that space for them to make their own decisions as well.
Right.
Just one example is with our daughter, we've exposed her to various kind of skills, and the tendency is to say things are too difficult and I don't want to continue, and that's where we really come and kind of encourage them, push them. And now violin, she started off with a lot of hesitance, and today she's playing so beautifully and enjoying it. Whereas at the same time, Bharatanatyam, we thought we would push her, and after a year, she was still not very comfortable. So it was okay to let her drop that. So I think that kind of is just an example that while you push your children and you try to encourage them to continue, there are times when you just have to kind of go with what they are feeling and let them decide.
Yes, we have to allow them to also lead the way once they are growing up. I agree with
Yep.
that. And I'm not going to lie, it's not easy. It is hard moving away from that role. As parents, we believe we are the decision makers, but I think the world is changing. It's different from when we were growing up. And it's okay to sit in the passenger seat and allow our children to be in the driving seat, because, and that's one of the things of coaching as well, where as a coach, my client is in the driver's seat, and my only job is to empower them. And that's what I think we need to do with our kids as well. Empower them to make those decisions and to allow them to make the mistakes as well, because that's going to be the biggest learning lessons for them. So it's okay for them to make those mistakes. So tell me,
Absolutely.
can you share with our audience, how do you keep those values intact and allow them to imbibe those values, not only of the land that they're growing up in, but also of the land that they come from? How do you manage that marriage of the two? How we
Yeah,
manage?
Ruchi, the values are quite kind of global, I would say, in reach. I don't think the countries necessarily play that big a role. I think values come a lot with just the parenting aspects, and kids learn a lot just observing parents. So if we live our values, they're bound to pick those up. They may not accept all of them, but they will notice them, and they will, based on their own intellect, some of them, and some of them will fall away. Now, I've always found that contextualizing these values goes a long way in allowing your children to imbibe them. What I mean is to kind of tell or read stories to them, or even current events from a newspaper, and then kind of pause once the storyline is read through and think about what are the key values that were displayed in that particular story or the news article or a current affair, and then explain to them what the implications of those values are. So I think that's a very I found it remarkably successful to share those kind of values with children in that context. Now, just an example is the recent World Cup in Qatar. Our children were following these games and they were mesmerized by Messi. And at that point, I remember telling them the childhood stories of Messi when he was not, he had some growth deficiencies and he had to go through a lot of hard work, tons of training, and had so much dedication. And today he is what he is. So kind of giving children that backdrop to let them understand that it's not instant that people become famous or become uh, the best in the world. It takes a lot of hard work, it takes a lot of commitment, it takes a healthy lifestyle, and then success may follow. So I think just kind of bringing that real story or real world connect with the value systems, I think goes a long way in them imbibing it. If you just call up on them and say, guys, you got to work hard, you got to do your homework, that's not going to work necessarily. But I think giving them that context, I think allows them to appreciate what we say a lot more.
Especially because we live in a world and a culture of instant gratification. So to
Absolutely.
home that point that it's not an overnight success story that you want to live. It's that journey of the ups and downs, the lows and highs that are going to make your life rich and beautiful. Thank you so much, Mrinal. So my last question for you. There are certain attributes that we are not taught in the education system. What are those values that you picked up along the way? Maybe you could share your top 3 cultural adaptations to working ways in different countries.
Ruchi, I'm going to again answer this a little bit differently. I think whether it's a different country or not, I think some of the values, and it kind of connects back to the earlier point that in my mind, the values are a bit more global. I would say in today's day and age where everything is, a click through or a swipe, this generation lacks patience. I don't want to sound negative, but what we see is they are quite impatient. They want things quickly. And with that, I think they're probably eroding away at uh, at at something like just putting in the hard work. And therefore, I would say developing a strong work ethic And I don't mean it only from a career perspective, but it could be homework, it could be classwork, it could be a social project you take, it could be any of those items. But just developing a very strong work ethic that once you've taken up a responsibility, you will be diligent, you will be organized, and you will deliver. I think that is extremely important. So I would say that would be one key value. The second value that I would borrow from my own 20 years of experience is perseverance. Things will always be difficult before they get easy. You will not always succeed. There will be failures. But having the single-minded focus to look, to kind of see through these phases and to persevere will stand you in good stead. So I think that's a very, very strong value I would share. And finally, to have the humility uh, in whatever aspects of life you are currently facing, whether it's a personal equation, whether it's a work, you're a student, have humility. You do not know everything. You will never know everything, except when you're wrong. The idea is to learn and grow. And to the extent possible, to keep ego out of the equation, because that's usually what often comes in the way of learning and growth. So I would say these three items, which is a strong work ethic, having the perseverance to see things through, and finally being humble.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Mrinal. It has been an absolute pleasure having you
Lovely.
as my guest on my podcast. Thank you for your time. And I look forward to sharing more information and more amazing bites with all of you with my next guest. So see you soon. Thank you so much.
Good luck.
Thank you.